Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session on innovative pharma case studies, the Elfie perspective. In line with our theme of validating fit for purpose data in the era of AI, this session will highlight real world examples of how organizations are rethinking data and evidence strategies to create patient centered impact. This session will give us insights into practical approaches, innovative collaborations, and lessons learned from applying these strategies in the real world. I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker, Mr. Jean-Francois LEGOURD, a seasoned entrepreneur and health tech leader and co-founder of Elfie, the world's first free gamified health super app now operating in over 15 countries with over 20 years of experience driving growth at the crossroads of technology, healthcare, and digital innovation. Mr. Jean has held leadership roles at Microsoft, Gartner, Singtel, and Samsung where he built deep expertise in product strategy, e-commerce, analytics, and operational transformation across global markets. We are pleased to have you, Mr. Jean. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Ms. Ritu, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. As Ritu mentioned, you can call me JF. I am a co-founder indeed and COO of Elfie. I prepared a few slides presentation for you today to bring you to life and even a demo if some of people are interested to see how we drive every day real world evidence and medical impact across the world. I will be asking you some questions around during the presentation that will last around 27 more minutes. And feel free to reply and to give your opinion. I will keep reading your comments, and we'll keep some time for Q&A at the end of this presentation. Then I'll get started. Thank you. Then, so a bit of background before we go deep into the topic. Why am I participating today? I think that Ms. Ritu and the team have particularly been interested in the Elfie case because of our partnership with pharmaceutical company, but also our impact. As of today, Elfie can claim to be the number one at the world digital therapeutics because we have more than 1 million patients. We are covering more than 10 therapeutics area. We have scientific publications. We're globally compliant. And last but not least, we are free for all. And that's very important in a world where people don't necessarily have economic means to be able to access the fancy technologies that are usually available in advanced countries like the US. So our mission to really have a maximum impact was to bring to the world the best technology for medical impact and for evidence generation. So let me tell you a little bit more about how we made this happen. And first is how do we make it work, not like a charity, but like a business that can scale. Where is the money coming from if we are able to provide the work that we do for free for everybody? First, we are, and I'm explaining here, it's not for sales, but to understand how you build an economically viable model that allows patients to have great medical impact and allow to generate patient data at scale and medical evidence at scale, even in the most remote areas in the world. We're financed by pharmaceutical company. Why? Because we generate medication adherence. And not only in fancy offices in New York City, but in the Amazonias, in the Nile region in Egypt, in Turkey, in Vietnam, all across the world, from rich countries to poor countries. And that's important for pharma. We also work and get financed by insurers because they have people they insure and they want to make sure they don't die too young and they don't get hospitalized unnecessarily if the chronic disease or the disease that they have could be maintained better or even preventing from happening. So insurers basically pay us to take care of their members. And then finally, and I think also this was the first piece of work that we've done is, and we're going to talk about it also today, is by research companies and their sponsors, which are usually life science company, but sometimes governments as well. How Elfie is also a clinical trial platform. And so we'll be talking also a bit about that today, but I just wanted to let you know that although it looks like we are a charitable business, and we are charitable for the patient and for the doctors, and we never charge anything for patient, doctors, or public healthcare system ever. We're also viable, because you cannot be driving sustainable health impact if your business is not sustainable. So let me click next. Ta-da. So what are we going to talking about today? First, patient engagement. No matter how good is your tech, if the user doesn't want to use it, then you're not going to have no impact. And that was the biggest pitfall in the world today. Is a lot of digital application, and that's the reason why we built Elfie. We realized that the applications were done by excellent doctors, clinical trialists, excellent technologically and scientifically, but they forgot a bit that the user is much more interesting by TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook than by talking about death and diseases. So we need to bring back, and we needed to bring back, patient engagement. We're going to see, and I'm going to try to do a demonstration live to show you how we made that happen and the result that we have generated. This is why pharmaceutical companies love working with us, is because we realize that we know how to do something that was hard for them to do, is to talk the language of a user with all the limitation about what it is to be a human. Then patient acquisition. I told you we had 1.2 million patients today. We acquire around 100,000 patients every month across the world, from cities to rural areas, women, men, old people, young people, sick and healthy, many diseases or only one or not at all yet in the preventive aspect. We'll talk a bit about that and some of the secret recipe there, because it's important to be able to reach scalably and cost efficiently. Then I'll show you the medical evidence, some of the publications that have happened or are coming, and some of the data at large scale. And then I'll talk you a bit more about Elfie research, the platforms, what we have built, and why we were asked to build it. So without further ado, let's start with section 1, patient engagement. So as a participant in the audience, to tell me there is around already 200,000 health app on the App Store or the Play Store. What is the average retention of this app after 30 days? Does anyone can put a number, a percentage? I'll look at the comments and I'll see what you're thinking. You just click comment and then you can put a number that gives me a bit of an understanding what you think is the retention. Retention means the user is still using the app, just for simplicity of language. Okay, let me look at the comment a bit. Ta-da. Good. 30% from Dr. Niamat Kaur. Thank you very much. 60% from Miss Ritu. So it's not going to be me saying it. I will actually show you the official sources. When you work in the world of digital, you have actually websites that publish average practice, good practice, and best practice. And so when we create Elfie, we try to be at good level as well. So let's have a look what the benchmark says. On average, generic health app that you find on stores, they have a retention. And I give you the sources as well, and the presentation material will be there. Good apps, the one that have a little bit of reminders, push notification, a little bit of basic gamification, they're at 6 to 10%. Best in class, the one that have really spent a lot of money, do chronic disease management, are very well gamified, they are at around 11 to 20%. That's when we launched Elfie, that's what we needed to beat. And that's why when we spent our own money, I spent more than $2 million with my co-founder with no other source of revenue, just to show that we had the right to play, was we built an app. And then the pharma was just paying us nothing and looking us to see if we were doing well or not. And this is the numbers, and they have audited us a lot to verify what we've been able to do. What's interesting there, by the way, is not simply that the app itself works, is the channel of acquisition is very important. Showing that the role of app is not to remove a doctor. It is actually to support doctors. And when an application is introduced by a doctor, it doubles its impact. And I'm talking about doctor in general practice. not simply fancy doctors in a clinical trial. It's just a regular doctor in a street. Sorry. So let's look a little bit about the secret recipe of the application Elfie, and cautious of the time, I will, by the way, you can download the app for free. That's what I promised to you, and it is there in most countries in the world. You'll be able to download and play with it. What did we do? First, we start with the user. And when we realize what the users, and I have access to, of course, all the statistics, even sick users, they don't want to talk about disease and death every day. They actually prefer to talk about wellness and a positive side of health. So we looked at it and realized there are so many applications in the world. And if you're a patient, you need to have one app for your sport, one app for your medication, one app for your food, one app for your sleep, one app for your mental fitness, one app for women health and periods, one app for weight loss. It's just a mess. And one app for diabetes and another app for cancer. It's just so fragmented. And most of these apps, you have to pay for them. So what we decided to do, and you know what? We're going to bring all the wellness, the best features that are costly normally, and we put them all into one app free of charge. And if you have a disease, the management of a disease is also included, and it's a feature you activate on the top of your positive lifestyle and wellness management. That's what we did. We started treating health not as a sickness, but as a positive health. And in many terms in science, health means sickness. Mental health has a connotation of mental sickness. A lot of healthcare is disease care. And that negativity deterred patients away. We needed to put a positive spin on health. Click on next. Normally that's demo time. If I have a bit more time at the end of the presentation, I'll do it. But I want to make sure you have a bit of time to ask questions as well. So, but you can also play with the application. We launched a few days ago a few versions of women health and modules to be able to accompany women. But you'll see there is a lot of different features that you can try, and we will keep adding more diseases management and more wellness features. Disease, I said we cover around more than 10 therapeutic areas today. By the end of the years, we would have added respiratory diseases and dermatology diseases, and we will continue with new form of cancers next year and certain other diseases as well. Objective is to cover every disease, so a doctor doesn't have to remember 20 or 500 apps, but to say in Elfie, you get it all. And for a user, you don't have to restart your health journey every time you have a new condition. Let's continue. Patient acquisition, a few key learnings. What matters, size and reach matter, because of course, if you don't have many patients, that doesn't really help. You cannot neutralize your investment. But the part that is interesting as well is to see the velocity and the number of multimorbidity that we have inside the Elfie application. We have, I think, around 60% of our patients or 60% of our users are known. They know they already have a chronic disease, and 40% of them have at least 2 diseases, if not more. And as we keep adding many diseases, we start seeing the way they manage their health and they manage their different care journeys. Something that is interesting as well is beyond the size and the ability to reach patients across the world, you need to be able to have a very large diversity. Many people think that digital is only for the young. That was probably true in 1990. But as of today, I can tell you, especially in the developing world, but even in developed countries, people above 60 years old, they know how to use Facebook and a lot of the apps very well. Today, I think we have around 30% of our users that are above 60. 12% of our users that are less than 40, that's in the UK, because you have, again, in developing world, it's the opposite. We have 12 or 15% of our users that are above 60 and around 40 on the below 40 years old and between 40 to 60. The application represents the demographic of a country, and it resonates to people until 75. After 75 years old, we still have people that are a bit uncomfortable with digital tools. Gender inclusion, and more gender, but biological sex is super important. As clinical trialists, we have quite a few in the present today in attending. We know that women have been underrepresented in clinical trials across the last century, and we're all trying to avoid excluding them. And Elfie actually had a little bit more women than men, and that's great to know and to be representative. Many diseases as well, as I mentioned, 60%, 63% have at least a disease, and about geographic inclusion. Another factor of exclusion in clinical trial and real-world evidence is the fact that cities and rich people have been very represented. And the ability of digital is to be able to reach people deep inside the countryside. When we develop the application, we also develop it with offline mode. In case your network is garbage in the middle of rural areas, and we were developed in dispensaries as well in very poor area. During COVID time, we needed the application to work in very bad phone with barely enough internet. That's also what it is to be patient-centric, and you know that as doctors. But sometimes people in digital forget that the real world is not a fancy office at Google. It happens that a lot of people don't have access to that. Launch campaign. How do we acquire users? We acquire around 20% of our users via doctor referral. We work with public healthcare systems, and I'll tell you a bit more about it. But around 80% of our users find us online. They find us online through influencers, doctors that talk about whatever is their domain of expertise, and they talk about Elfie. But we also use AI a lot, AI-generated content. And what we discover as well is the best way to bring someone into disease management is, as I mentioned earlier, to talk about health and wellness. An example was on diabetes. The best way to talk about people on diabetes is not, hey, I've got a great app that treats diabetes, is to talk about pain points. You can no longer go out to share a meal with your friends because you don't know if you can eat that food. All the impact about diabetes and the pain points in the lifestyle. So you start with a pain point, you talk about nutrition management, they come into Elfie, and then they start activating the disease management program, diabetes management, and all that. So starting by the real life pain point, bringing that to the thing they do every day, which is choosing who to eat, what to eat, and all the constraints, and then the disease in the background, just at the right time, but not summarizing life to death. That's important. And then offline, we work with more than 1,000 hospitals. We will be announcing a partnership with a very large Ministry of Health that will be using Elfie as a national application for preventing and managing health in their countries. And we have developed a platform for doctors and nutritionists to start, again, as I told you, free of charge, to be able to manage their patient, provide them a nutrition plan for nutritionists, or monitor their vitals and communicate with their patient in a safe way so they don't have to use WhatsApp to manage their patient with all the lack of security that you may have on a public platform. So that's also another channel of acquisition offline. Medical evidence. And so here it's some data on vitals. We have data over more than 12 months usually. But what we observe is bit after bit, patients using the application start seeing that their vitals that were uncontrolled at the starting point start becoming controlled. And the more interesting part is how they stay controlled over time. You will see at the ESC Congress in Berlin, the first AI and digital summit of the ESC, a publication on 22,000 patients. It's under embargo, so I'm not allowed to say what it's. So, of course, the objective of Elfie is to change behavior. The application itself doesn't change the cardiovascular system of a human being. What it does is change behavior, in particular, medication adherence, and a bit of lifestyle, nutrition, weight, and physical activity. And that, in turn, have the medical impact desired. Let's go into slide 3. Here we see a bit of evolution on people with a problem of weight. Quality of life was introduced originally for angina management in Elfie, one of the diseases. And then we looked at the EuroQOL methodology to start looking at the evolution of quality of life, 5D, 5L, to start measuring the impact. And it's great. I can share with you the data if we talk together, but it's what we keep measuring on a daily basis on very large sample size. Medical credibility, endorsement by 6 associations, medical association at least. We have also an RCT, randomized controlled trial, RCT, that will be published. It is co-led by NEAO, the Imperial College of London, and the Albert Einstein Institute in Brazil. It's a multi-country clinical trial that will assess what is the impact of the Elfie application. Control group, versus the intervention group. The proper way, of course, of conducting a clinical trial. It costs more than $1 million, and we will be able to basically demonstrate, fingers crossed, but my gut feeling is telling me that's going to be great, to demonstrate the medical validity and the scientific validity of an intervention that is free. And that's important. And Elfie research. So that was actually, and I'll probably stop here to open for questions. I'll show you a few things. When we started showing our platform, the Imperial College of London, the George Institute in Australia, the Albert Einstein Hospital and their clinical trial unit told us that would be great if we could use Elfie for clinical trials. So they were used us during their own trials as a way to engage patients, to make sure the patients were retained in their protocol. And then they told us, could you help us build a platform that can help onboard patients via digital content, even in remote area, to start facilitating decentralized and clinical trials? And that's what we built for them. So we launched it last month, a clinical trial platform where you can have basically all the modules that you would have in the beautiful platform like Medidata or Oracle, just with a patient at the center, which means the interface is a lot more engaging, and the way to use a platform is a lot simpler for the CRA and all the staff that actually do the work, including the site investigators and their team, because they have not an easy job. So here, a lot of pain point being addressed. You will see also how we are doing meta-analysis when we do our first trial that's going to start next month on the platform, is looking at how do we apply the new GCP guidelines that have been approved by the FDA and also in the UK, I can't remember the authority. How do you have a valid consent in the world of digital? And so we have done many modules to really go at a very high level for ethics committee. And so we address that, the ability to comply with each local regulation across the world, and innovate in the way that consent is collected. So there is a lot of elements that we bring to life, an interface easy to use and modular, the way to pilot and involve the sponsor, the site investigator in a compliant manner to keep them engaged and motivated across a trial. And that's a great privilege for us because, as you know from my background, I'm not a clinical trialist. I'm an obsessed user-centric person. And my job is to make sure that patient and site investigators, in that case, are excited to participate. So clinical trials can be much more scalable and much more cost efficient and much faster to turn on. So many more studies can be run, and at local level to avoid only having fancy Americans, Texans to be the base of science, but also have people that never been included in trials to be finally included. So yes, that was the slide. E-consent, agility and cost, and rule of engagement. There was one slide that should have been hidden. My apology here. So I'll pause here, 5 more minutes to address any question, if it's possible, to collect a few questions from the audience, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, how do pharmaceutical companies innovate while keeping patient needs at the center? Yeah, so innovate and innovate on a molecular level, I would assume. So for us, that's a role that we play, because many pharmaceutical companies have tried to get closer to the patient, but for regulatory purposes, it's very slow for them. The only data they have about patients is usually either the clinical trial themselves or the sales out of pharmacies that they buy from IQVIA usually, or another data providers. But when it comes to collecting real-world evidence to influence what should be the priorities in terms of research, or what should be the priority in terms of label extension, or in which part of the country they should be focusing their education towards doctors, or what type of patients are being left out, they are completely blinded. So the job that they had was, at the beginning, their digital team in their IT department tried to do some apps. Didn't work very well because the patient was not very easily embedded, and so they get no good data, no good success. So in that case, at least the one that I've been exposed to, while I collaborated with a few very large pharmaceutical companies, and our partnership contract with Pharma is between 5 to 10 years. It's long-minded partnership. They let us do actually the job of engaging the patient. They just observe and collect the data anonymized. We spend $1 million on legal fees to make sure that everything we do is absolutely compliant in every regulation. And as I'm French, gentlemen, gentle ladies, we apply GDPR worldwide as well, on the top of a local regulation, to make sure that the level of anonymization and the level of data security is a French level. And it's tough, but I think it's very good for the patient, and it doesn't have any negative impact for the quality of the data. So it's actually doing things right from a data privacy standpoint is actually not bad for business if done properly. And so greater patient satisfaction. Then when you have someone like me and my team, we have around 120 people that dreams about patient and works with patient every day. We have around 30 patients in our offices every week working with our engineers, and new ones every week that says, I don't like this, this is bad idea, this is great, this is my problem. It's faster. We release one new version of the Elfie application every 10 days, including weekends. So every 7 business days, all the time. So that's one way to be innovative. Paola Davis, looking ahead, what do you think the pharmaceutical industry will look like in 5 to 10 years? What upcoming innovation are you the most excited about? I don't come from the pharmaceutical industry, so it's. I don't know if my position is quite. I do see, though, that there is a tendency for pharmaceutical company to start going into niche market areas with very niche vertical, because that's where they have sufficient price of drugs to innovate. The world of general medicine seems to have established molecules that makes the most premium pharmaceutical companies start to deprioritize a lot of the very high prevalent diseases, because the money to be made is smaller. It doesn't provide sufficient bracket. So I would say 2 world of pharma companies: the one that provides, I know 1 minute, the one that provides highly niche but highly valuable drugs, and we work with them. And then the one that are a bit more general medicine oriented, large volume, and these ones will be the one very close to primary care, and we will work with them as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jane. It was a wonderful session, and it was great to, know about Elfie and the features that it brings about. I hope we will get so many app downloads today only. So really excited for that. I myself will go and download and see, explore the platform. It's really exciting to know about Elfie. I hope the audience also would be very grateful to know about it. So it was a wonderful session. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining in and, demonstrating things about Elfie. And thanks for being a part of this conference.
Thank you. It was an honor to join you today, and I wish you all a very good rest of the day and event.